Coming up on the Authorpreneur podcast, everybody's different, and just because you didn't write 20k, 200,000 words this year doesn't mean you're lazy or you're not productive. It just means that you're not that kind of writer. And me sharing, actually, I'm definitely not a 200k writer, and I saw a video the other day and I watched it and I was just like, you moron, I shouldn't have watched this. And it annoyed me because, they're saying, oh, this is how much I did. And everyone underneath is sort of jumping on the bandwagon. And I don't think that's helpful because everyone writes differently. No two people write the same way. And some people need, say, time to think. I'm definitely one of those writers. I need to take time to think and I need to do research as I write because it becomes helpful with this new style that I'm writing. So I'm not going to do any of that junk. You got it. Welcome to the Authorpreneur podcast. I'm your host, mystery author Amelia D. Hay. On this podcast, I will bring you writing, book marketing, and self-publishing advice so that you can create your dream author business, build your author platform, and be creatively independent. You can find the episode show notes and lots more information on the podcast page at authorpreneurpodcast.com/podcast. Hello, writers. My name is Amelia, and I'm the host of the Authorpreneur podcast. I don't know why I've shared that because it's clearly on the screen and I share it in the intro every time. But hi, long time no see or listen, depending on how you're consuming my podcast. So in this episode, it's going to be a behind the scenes episode. It's 49 and I'm going to talk about my highlight reel for 2022. The reason why I'm calling it my highlight reel, I'm going to talk about what I achieved, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of depth into exactly what I did because no one has time for that. I'm just going to assume you don't want to listen to me rabbiting on for an hour. So I want to keep this episode really short, but informative and helpful for you. So what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about what I've achieved in terms of, my authorpreneur, life, everything from LaVille book covers to publishing, the podcast and everything that I do sort of behind the scenes. And I'm also going to we'll quickly run through all of the products that I use in my business that I've loved in 2022 that I will be using in 2023. And the reason why I want to do it that way is I don't just want to talk about the things I hate. I just want to focus. I want to start the year off focusing on the positive things. And you will find when I talk about what I've achieved, I'm not going to talk about metrics because I'm tired. My inner coach hates metrics. I mean, it's great if you're measuring something like in business, like you're tracking, your sales over time. Most hypermetrics are good. But what I mean is like word counts and how many hours I spent writing and that kind of thing because everybody's different. And just because you didn't write 20k, 200,000 words this year doesn't mean you're lazy or you're not productive. It just means that you're not that kind of writer. And me sharing, actually, I'm definitely not a 200k writer. And I saw a video the other day and I watched it and I was just like, you moron, I shouldn't have watched this. And it annoyed me because, they're saying, oh, this is how much I did. And everyone underneath is sort of jumping on the bandwagon. And I don't think that's helpful because everyone writes differently. No two people write the same way. And some people need, say time to think. I'm definitely one of those writers. I need to take time to think, and I need to do research as I write, because it becomes helpful with this new style that I'm writing. So I'm not going to do any of that junk. You got it. So let's get into the episode. Now that I've had that rant, so I'm going to talk about what I've achieved this year. I'm going to stick to the highlight reel, no metrics, and I'm going to talk about the products that I've used. Obviously, these products will be listed in the show notes, and some of them will be affiliate links. And what that basically means is, if you click on the link, I might get a whole cent from your purchase if you go and purchase. But it is what it is. And just so you know, I'm recording this episode on Thursday, the 2nd of February. So this shows me primarily looking back at the previous year, which is 2022. So if you're watching this sometime in a couple of years in the future, you'll just know what I've done and the products that I've liked. So hopefully it'll still be useful for you. I'm hoping these will be evergreen. That's what I'm hoping for. So throughout this episode, I'll be referencing tools and services that I've used. If you're interested in reading the transcript or would like links to anything that I've mentioned in the show, then check out the very long blog post or edited transcript at authorpreneur.com/BTS049. And if you're new to this podcast, I want to say a huge thank you for stopping by and trying out my show. To those of you who've been faithfully listening, thank you for regularly listening in and supporting me. Your support means more to me than you know. So what have I achieved in 2022? The first thing I did was I published the 3rd edition of Missing under a new title, and obviously it's called Suspicion, and this is the cover. It is slightly different from Missing, but the color tone's exactly the same, and I've done that on purpose. So this was published in July. So when I rewrote let's jump to why first. So part of the reason is the reviews for the first. So I had a few not so great reviews from the first edition. So then I created the 2nd edition. I got that professionally edited, and I went through and changed a few things because I realized I didn't obviously point something out, and that's fine. And that's good because I need to resolve the premise of the story, and I didn't quite do that in an obvious way. So that was important for me to do. But when I did that, I just made the changes, called it a 2nd edition, and that was it. I still kept the same ebook. I had to disconnect the paperbacks. I did this in 2021, and I had to attach new paperbacks to that, and I didn't retitle it, and I wish I did. Because, I don't know, I wanted to keep those reviews that were talking about something that's been resolved. I don't know, it just does not make any sense. I thought relaunching it was going to be work, and I was right. And so with this 2nd edition, I used a few products which I won't talk about, which I won't mention by name, and I got a mixture of reviews. Some people loved it, and some people gave me a low positive review, and some people they said one thing on the platform and they said another thing in the reviews, and it was super dodgy. And I ended up getting, with all of those ratings, I ended up getting a 3.65 star rating on Amazon and a slightly lower rating over on Goodreads. And it bothered me. I was starting to worry because I planned on publishing Duplicity this year, and I was worried that if I put out Duplicity with this first book in the series, that no one would go on and read it because these harsh reviews of my first book in this series, I was worried that they were going to, those readers who wanted to try the book and read Duplicity would be put off by that, and I would have, a terrible read through. I don't know. I didn't want to think too short term. I did this for the long-term benefit. So when I publish 5 books, the 5th book in the series, and people finally realize that this series is alive, I don't want them to be put off by that first book. And I still stand by this decision to create this. So I created the 3rd edition. I gave it a new cover. I, for some reason, decided I used beta readers only to see what the reader reactions were to it. Not that I was going to change anything, because I was done rewriting to committee. Like, I was really done. But I just wanted to get the reaction. And then I tried a different editor, and I realized that I had made a huge mistake. So editor wasn't right for me, and I didn't quite get what I was used to, because I'm, different editor, different technique. So I ended up going back to my usual company. I then got a line by line edit, and I really like that kind of edit. I like my editor to pay attention to every word. It's just, I don't know, I just really like it. It sounds messed up that I enjoy seeing all of the track changes, and there's so many of them. But hey, I love that apparently. And then I did a proofread, and I just threw this up there. I then, after the fact, used ARC readers to get those first few reviews, and those reviews have been positive. So that was the 3rd edition. So to create this 3rd edition, I had to go through, and I decided that I wanted to have a different ending, because I wanted to have the possibility of using Maximilian Nichols in a different series. And I thought, if he's the bad guy in this series, I can't quite use them, because I realized the character I wanted to use, I didn't like them. Not that I like Maximilian, but I enjoy writing him. But this other character, I just sort of felt, nah, we aren't going to get along. I created them, but I just don't like them. Yeah, go figure. So in order to do that, because this book is heavily outlined, I had to then heavily outline the 2nd edition. The 3rd edition. I didn't, create a new outline or anything. I just went through and decided, this is what I'm going to change. This is the new ending I want to give it. And I can keep these scenes. These are the scenes I can keep. These are the scenes that need major edits. And these are the scenes that need minor edits. And then I went through the book systematically and made sure I tied up those loose ends. So that was the plan. And the 2nd book I released was Duplicity. So again, I finished revising. So I started working on Duplicity at the start of the year. And then when I had the epiphany about my first book in this series, I dropped the revision and went back to that first book, did that, and then picked Duplicity back up in July. And when you sort of pick up and drop a revision, for me at least, I need to spend a bit of time getting back into the book. And this year I actually used Natural Reader to read back the scenes in my books, and I absolutely love that. I know it sounds super weird. So I finished revising Duplicity. I sent this book off to beta readers. Actually, I think I only used one beta reader other than my usual alpha reader, and then after that I went line edits and a proofread. I honestly thought this was the crappiest book that I've ever written, and I was just so afraid of publishing this. This is why I put it up for pre-order. So my book was with the line editor. I put up the pre-order and I think it was the third round of line edits is when I put it up for pre-order, because I knew it was my book was going to wait X amount of weeks. The proofread was going to take X amount of weeks, and then I was able to, publish it after that. So I sort of gave it a buffer, like a month's buffer, just in case. So I put it up for pre-order. I then submitted the book to ARC readers, to a usual platform. And weeks before I published this book, I changed the cover to this, and I'm really happy with this cover. Sorry to toot my own horn, but the other cover, it was just, I couldn't quite make the concept work in a way that I loved. And it was up on my website for a while, and it's not a terrible cover. It's just, I personally didn't like it. It's just a weird designer thing. I just didn't like the book. I just decided I didn't like that cover for some reason. The outer edges were quite dark, and it's not that it doesn't suit the book. It does. I just woke up one morning and decided, no, this is not the cover. And I changed it. And I slowly got the ARC reviews in for this, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh, they really liked the book. People, approved of the title. I had people bitching about the title I chose for one of the books, and one of them was another author, and it's like, I've never had someone do that to me before. I was just like, why would you pan another author's book? This just makes you look like a horrible person. And they were like, oh, the cover and title didn't do it justice. And I was like, wow, thanks for that. I didn't reply back, but I was just like, oh, do not do that. Just don't. It doesn't make you look good. Because especially if you do it on a platform where you can click the image and see their profile, and you realize, oh, that's how I found out they were an author. And I was like, oh, wow. So this thing that I was using has other authors sitting in it. And I was like, that's not good, because I just want someone who actually reads, who doesn't have an opinion on how to write a book. I just want a reader. And yeah, I said I wasn't going to do this. I can't help myself. So yeah, so I'm pleasantly surprised by this, but I really loved Suspicion when I wrote it, and I still do. I still love it, but I don't think the readers don't love it as much as I did. And this is not my first book either that I wrote. So the other thing that I did, I decided that I wanted to experiment writing into the dark, because I want to change the way I write. I heavily outline, and I enjoy outlining like you would not believe, but it makes the writing of the first draft really difficult. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out, can I become a first draft writer? It sounds insane, but I'm going to try. So I'm doing that with this, and I've watched Dean Wesley Smith's Writing into the Dark. I've read the book and taken the course and taken lots of notes, and I'm trying to replicate what he does to see if I can do it before I then sort of make changes. And as it is, I've slowly changed it a bit to make it suit me. And using Natural Reader as a part of that process has really helped me. It does mean that I'm super slow, but I enjoy hearing the book read back to me. Helps me really slip back into the scene, and it helps me to be able to write without an outline. So I'm experimenting with writing into the dark with a story that is based on something that's referenced in duplicity between James and another character. So last year I wrote 15,000 words of a locked room mystery, And I decided the cover, and spoiler alert, the title is called The Locked Room. I originally thought it was going to be a short story, and then I got to a certain point and realized, yeah, this is going to be a novella. And this is the cover. I had this book on I originally designed this cover as a pre-made for Laville book covers. I saw the image on, I think it was either Deposit Stock Photos or iStock, and I was like, I really love this. I could definitely see this as being a sort of psychological thriller kind of cover where it's got this sort of, that kind of font on there. And then I put, you never really know what's going on behind closed doors as the tagline on it. It was a completely different color palette on my website, but I changed it to red because it looks too much like the next book I'm about to show you. And I designed that and I put it up there as a pre-made, and it hadn't sold yet. And then I started writing back then it was called The Chateau, and I saw this cover while I was uploading another pre-made set of 3 to my Etsy and Laville Book Covers website, and I saw that and I thought, that is going to be a great cover for this mailing list freebie, which I will make available on Amazon, but I'm just going to give it away to my email list for free. But you'll have to buy, like, if you don't join my email list, you can still buy it from Amazon for like $2.99 US or $1.99 British pounds. I can't remember what the conversion is. Maybe they're equal now. But so I had to pay myself. So I brought this cover for £60. I charged myself £60 because that's the price of the pre-made. So I brought it on my website and I used Stripe. So it was an opportunity for me to test that. So I purchased it just so I wanted it to be a legitimate purchase through my website and not me sort of just taking it down because it's an asset I was wanting to sell and make money from. So that's how I did it, just so the cash flow looks legitimate, because I haven't separated all of these cash flows either. They're still in the one thing. I know better than to do this, but I do. So that's the cover. I haven't shared this with my mailing list yet, what the cover is going to look like. But here it is. No one's seen it. It's not on my website. You're the first to see it. So I hope you like that cover. I kind of did, obviously. So the next thing that I did was I changed the cover because I had that cover for The Locked Room. I thought I can still give away The Locked Room and The Lawn as mailing list sign-ups, as freebies to encourage people to sign up to my mailing list and find out more information about my books. So I changed the cover from The Lawn slightly. So I kept the image at the background. This was the original image that I used for The Lawn, and it's just one image. And I put this new, a body is on the front lawn, a priceless painting is missing, that tagline here. But I wanted to keep it all looking like they belong together. Like these are a little short story collection of their own. They're separate from the Rookie Reporter Mysteries, and they're separate, but they're still a part of the James Lalonde universe, if that makes sense. I'm just creating multiple entry points for people to discover my books. And doing this now means I've got, like when I put out Duplicity, I had maybe 3 people purchase it. I have 5 books, but I didn't really promote it. I just sort of put it out there. So 3 people found it, and I think they found it because they had purchased these other books. So I'm it's slowly building, but technically I have 4 books out there, and I should be having more sales if I published them all in the same series. But because I've got a few, technically they're different series, I don't get many sales. But I'm hoping in the future that I'm setting myself up for success. Fingers crossed. That's the plan, right? So I also obviously did things with podcasting in 2022. So I released 14 episodes of the Authorpreneur podcast, and that's less than the previous year. And you would have noticed I sort of fell out of love with podcasting last year because I woke up one morning to discover that another individual had used my podcast name on their podcast. Like I dropped indie out of the title of my podcast in 2018 or 2019. But I've been using Authorpreneur podcast since the end of 2017. So it's a long time. I've got like all of the URLs. When you search for the podcast, you find me. Like there's no escaping me. But they used exactly the same name as my podcast. And I was just like, why are you doing this? And up until now, these episodes have been heavily edited. And I was just really bummed out. It just sucked the joy out of it, and I was sad and really depressed. I sent this person a message saying, hey, you're using the same podcast name as me, and it's not good because while you want to blend in to the subgenre of podcasting that you're in, you also want to stand out. You want to have a name that's technically not unique, but is specific to your podcast. So when they type in your podcast name, they find you and not your competition. All it would have taken, like I've opened multiple browsers on other people's computers and like incognito browsers with different internet connections, like in cafes, and I've double checked that when you type this in, you definitely find me. So this wasn't, and that takes a whole minute to discover, oh, this other person's in this place. So instead of being an a-hole, I trademarked the name Authorpreneur Podcast. So I haven't trademarked the word Authorpreneur because that's an a-hole move. It's these people who trademark single words. It's just like, come off the grass. Like, why are you doing this? It's mean. And I didn't want to be mean. I just wanted to protect my brand. So when I reached out to him in January or February, he instantly blocked me. So he knew I existed. And he did it deliberately. And I was just devastated. And I went through the process of trademarking my name, podcast name. And here we are. So, and I said to him, I sent him another message and I said, I have the trademark for this. You're using my podcast name. And I haven't looked since because it gives me a lot of anxiety and it stresses me out. And the other crappy thing I had to do in 2022 relating to my podcast was I deleted the 3-act structure template freebie and the entire automation queue that you get and the free course because I do get some great people emailing me and saying, hey, this doesn't actually work well for PC. And so I've tried a few things and those comments have been fantastic. It's just, thank you for letting me know that something doesn't work for you and being polite. And then I've had people come back to me and be really rude. They haven't even introduced themselves. No hi. I'm not even asking them to thank me. All I'm asking them to do is say hi. Like treat me like a human being and then ask me for help. So I've had people be extremely rude to me and actually really entitled saying, oh, this doesn't work for iPad, blah, blah, blah. And they've been super bitchy about it. And I have an entire course and an entire video that tells you how to get this 3-act structure onto an iPad. And I'm just like, you can, lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And it was getting to the point where I was starting to get scared of opening my email address saying, oh, what type of jerk have I got in my inbox today? And I'm in my 40s now, and I don't have time for people who are horrible. I'm very willing to help anyone as long as you are nice. And by nice, I just mean, hey, Amelia. And then ask, like, I'm not asking for the world. I'm not being entitled. I just want to be treated like a human being. And I just lost my shit that day because it costs me around £80 to deliver that 3-act structure template because it's sitting in and the course, and it's a lot of work. It was a lot of work for me to create. I had that huge tutorial that was free on YouTube. I have broken that down into smaller pieces and added some text for the course to make it more usable for people, and it's well labeled, and that took a lot of time. And yeah, I just was like, I've reached my point. Enough's enough. And I had some really lovely replies from people saying, oh, it's really sad that you're not providing this because I found it really helpful. And it's just, while there's some great people out there and they're super nice, the jerks ruin it for everybody. And I just, for my own sanity, I had to sort of pull it down and just say enough's enough. The exciting thing is I got the podcast, the Authorpreneur podcast, on Audible and Amazon Music. It's weird that they have two things that are to do with music and audio, but my podcast is there now and I'm super excited. I have no reviews, but I'm like, yay, it's on there. And I've got to laugh. I had said to myself, oh, this is going to be like a short, 5-minute video. And it's like, I'm on to like 32 minutes now. Delightful. What can I say? I love talking. And I have notes, by the way. I'm not just winging it. Like, I have notes to try and keep me on track, fingers crossed. So with LaVille book covers, I did a few exciting things this year. I created the website for LaVille book covers. I should show you, actually. I started doing some custom cover design on Etsy, and I started using Etsy ads to some success. I found people found and brought my pre-mades based on being able to find me on Etsy. They found something else and then they clicked on my store and they saw the thing that they really wanted. I also had people reach out to me and ask for custom design based on that as well. But I'm just going to show you. I'm going to hide my notes because you don't want to see that. So this is the website that I created. Well, I just set up the store at the end of 2021, and then I sort of went all out on my website. One of the things that I did do is I added a review. I sort of did the whole meet a designer thing. This was really hard for me to write because I don't see myself as a creative person, ironically. Yeah. And because I sort of think, when I sort of think of designers, I sort of think of people who can draw, and I can't draw to save my life. Well, I can't be bothered learning how to draw, let's be honest, and I don't have the time to put into it. And that's why I struggle to sort of say, oh, I'm designer, and I'm just like, I just wasn't comfortable with it. But I did that anyway, and I set up my social media channels, and then I decided that I was going to start a mailing list for this. Yeah. Because I sort of think when you start a mailing list for something, that's, super serious. You really have committed to it at that stage. So I thought, the easiest thing to do is supply a 10% off coupon for my store. So I sort of did that. And here I collapsed all of these, and you just see the last 4 covers from my store. I did like a frequently asked page, frequently asked questions page, which does all those things. I did my portfolio page, so I showed you. So these are the covers that have sold that have actually published. Technically, these 2 aren't published yet. These Body in the Book Club and Entitled to Murder. I really like cozy mystery, and I want to get into writing that. I absolutely love them. But these are the pre-made covers that I've sold that it was just easier for me to put up the pre-made covers than to... Oh, I don't think these are actually published yet, but the titles, but those are available. Yeah, so these are the things that I've sold. I have a funny feeling it's not all of them, but it's just... Yeah. Wow, I just had another tech fail. That's not very... It's not very reassuring at all. So I started doing custom cover design. You can actually request a custom cover design on my website. There's a link under shop, and it says custom cover design, and it brings up a huge form that you can fill out that has all the things that I need to know before I then sort of send you a quote, and you pay it and then I design. That's how it works. And on that form, it actually has all of that information as well, but it's a huge form. So that's everything that I wanted to talk about in terms of what I've achieved this year. Not this year, in 2022. So I'm going to take a quick break and put up, because I'm starting to lose my voice, and then I'm going to transition to start talking about the products that I've used in my business in 2022 that I love and that I will continue to use in 2023. If you're an author who is considering building a website with WordPress, then the most important thing you need is a web hosting platform. I use SiteGround. Since migrating to SiteGround in 2020 from another host, I've experienced a fast website, no outages, great customer service, and it's easy to use. All of my 4 websites are image heavy, and SiteGround comes with an optimizer plugin which helps you speed up your website, and it shows you your Google page speed score on both desktop and mobile, plus it provides helpful tips on how you can improve user experience. You can also use all of these features without leaving your website's dashboard. Right now, SiteGround is offering 75% off your first year of managed WordPress hosting, and you can get a free domain when you buy a full year in advance. With SiteGround, installing WordPress is as easy as clicking a button and creating your login credentials. And if you need, SiteGround has a great help section that's actually useful. You pay nothing extra when you buy through my affiliate link, so go check out the web hosting platform that I use and recommend. Head on over to siteground.com/go/authorpreneur and get your author website off to a great start. Eventually, I want to do these live. I'm actually doing this with a product which I'll talk about later on. But I'm going to start with the products that I use for Villain book covers and sort of bunch them all together, because I technically use these in my author business as well, because I design my own covers. But you don't necessarily do that, but you probably, just in case you're wondering what it is that I use in this for this particular business. So I use Photoshop, Illustrator. InDesign is more book formatting, but I'm dabbling with that. I'm still setting up a template and trying to get that right before I then go into, I guess, the more bespoke book formatting. But Illustrator is what I use to alter the vector images that I purchase for those sort of illustrated design, those illustrated covers. The real life, those covers that have like my James Lalonde series and the short stories and the Rookie Reporter series, they have real photos like I've taken of real things, and I use purely Photoshop to create that cover, those style of covers. And the more illustrated, cartoonish looking covers, I use Illustrator to alter them, to change the colors maybe, and then I import them into Photoshop to create the final ebook cover. So InDesign is purely book formatting. I actually started out using Quark in the early 2000s, Quark Express. So I am used to using graphic design software, but nothing that I would consider design. I've just formatted newsletters and other things that I can't remember. So I also use Canva, and what I use Canva for is to slap watermarks onto my images when I've put them on my website, because you can never be too careful. Because when a designer designs a cover, they own the intellectual property. Well, they own the copyright to the final cover. So I hold the IP to all of the covers that I create. And when you purchase a cover from me or any other designer, you're technically purchasing a license to use the cover. You don't actually own the copyright. And because when I create covers, I have to purchase licenses, and I purchase them from Deposit Stock Photos, iStock, Vector Stock Images, and one other place that escapes me that's actually quite popular among designers. So I purchase these licenses to use these images, whether it's a real sort of photograph or if it's a vector image or an illustration. I actually have to purchase a license for these, and then I create the covers. So the copyright of the individual images that I use are held by the photographer or the content creator. I hold the copyright to the final cover, and the author purchases a license to use the cover, essentially. I ended up sticking with Etsy, even though they put that creepy hold on my account 6 months after I started using it. I thought, why would you wait 6 months to put a hold on my payment account for this? You should have done it, earlier on. But it is what it is. So, and I also use Stripe, which is a secure payment platform where you enter your details. You enter your credit card details. It's actually stored on Stripe in a way that's protected. I can't quite see all of the amounts, but if you were to ask me for a refund, say if you accidentally purchased a pre-made cover and you didn't mean to, you decided that actually you probably should have purchased this other one or changed your mind or whatever, I can refund you. And I think it's literally just a click of a button in Stripe. So I use that as a part of the website for LaVille and book covers. Etsy have their own sort of payment platform that's secure. My website doesn't actually hold any credit card information at all. So over on my websites, I use WooCommerce I forgot to add that in to my notes. And it's a huge part of LaVille and book covers, actually. So I use WooCommerce with WordPress, and I use WordPress on all of my websites. So on the Authorpreneur podcast, LaVille and book covers, and my Author AD Hey website, I use WordPress and Divi theme on all of those. WooCommerce is only for LaVille and book covers, and I wouldn't use that to sell books. It would be a nightmare. Across all of my platforms, I use Gravity Forms, and honestly, it's the best form I've found. It does occasionally fail, but it stores the details. I've used forms before that have failed to send me the email letting me know someone's filled out the form, and the information has completely disappeared. Whereas Gravity Forms, it actually sits somewhere, and sometimes I forget to go in and check to see if it hasn't broken for some reason. For all of my websites, I actually host with SiteGround, and it's the same. I purchase one set of website hosting that I can use for a certain number of websites or unlimited websites, and that's it. But with my podcast, I don't actually put the audio files on my website. I actually have a separate hosting for that, and that is, I use Blueberry. I've always used them. I did use another product for a hot minute. I did start out using SoundCloud because it's what I knew, because I was saving audio files for my coaching clients back when I was doing life coaching, and I was using SoundCloud to do that, and that was fun. And so I started using it for my podcast, and then I discovered Blueberry, and honestly, they're the best. I have never had any problems with the hosting side of it. They've been super friendly, quick to get back to me, and the stats are amazing. The stats are really good. They have changed the format of the podcast statistics, but it is what it is. People change things. And to create this episode of the Authorpreneur podcast, I'm actually using Ecamm Live, and that's what I'm using to bring up, to record the audio, the video, to bring up the images, like this image and this image. I'm literally just clicking a button. I have a funny feeling that's super loud, but I'm able to do that with Ecamm Live. I can also mute my mic, take a sip of water without you hearing the slurping sound, which is disgusting. I have to admit, I'm pretty particular about certain sounds, and that's one of the things that I absolutely hate, along with, rustling of plastic and stuff like that. I know that's quite neurotic, but because I hate these things and I have to edit these episodes, I want it to be, not too jarring for me, because I can't be the only one that's like this. I also edit my videos with Final Cut Pro. I use GarageBand to edit the audio. I do that separately. Well, there's the audio episode that's purely audio only. The video episode, I edit it as a whole in Final Cut Pro. And my Blue Yeti microphone. I've used many microphones over the years, and I keep coming back to this thing. And because it's so good, I like the way my voice sounds in this. I'm almost losing my voice again. But that's all of my sort of blogging, podcasting side of things, those products that I use in that sort of part of my business. And now we're on to the things that I purely use in the author side of my business. So obviously it's BookFunnel, Payhip. I've actually used, I use BookFunnel and Payhip together to sell direct. And I've only I've given away 2 free books. Actually, that's spoilers for the bonus episode, actually. I won't completely spoil that episode, but so I use Payhip and BookFunnel to sell direct. I haven't tried Shopify, and to me, I know it's going to be a lot of work, because WooCommerce was a lot of work, and I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to stick with Payhip and BookFunnel because, yeah. So next is Vellum, which I used to format books. I'm still using Vellum. I do want to transition to using InDesign so I can have something more bespoke. Vellum is great, but there are certain things in Vellum that I don't particularly like, and it's more from a design perspective, because I don't know, it's more of a personal preference thing than the product being bad. But it's really quick, very easy to use, and I really love Vellum, and it's great for Mac because I'm Mac based. Draft2Digital, I really like them as obviously aggregate. I publish direct to Apple, Amazon, Kobo, Google Play. I've been with Google Play for a very long time actually, and their interface has gotten so much better over the years. To have a sale now, it's so easy now. You don't have to fiddle around with a CSV spreadsheet. They now bundle stuff together, and you can give people a discount if they purchase X amount of books in a series, so you can bundle it together, and that's really easy to do. So I really like that. So I like draft to digital though. It's quite fun, but I only use them to publish. I've started this year, which is a new thing for me, I've started using Natural Readers, the premium edition. And I figured out that I had a bit of a hiccup with the program, but I figured out how to fix it, and I'm super happy with it now. And the voices are quite realistic. You can still tell they're robotic, but the Plus program, their voices are just freakishly, some of them sound super real, and it's disturbing. And I'm still using Grammarly Premium. I know people hate on Grammarly, but I think it's gotten better over the years for writing fiction and stories. But you do need to sort of read through what you're putting into Grammarly as you're correcting it, just so you can tell that it's making a correction that's actually good for your book and not bad. So what I usually like to do is I put something through Grammarly Premium first, and then I put it through Pro Writing Aid. And with these two products, and along with Natural Readers, I purchase the annual, where I can, I just purchase the annual pricing option, because it always turns out to be cheaper than just accepting the rolling month plan. Autocrit. The only thing I don't like about Autocrit is it won't accept more than 50,000 words, and I really wish they would change this and improve that. Because why would you use Autocrit to critique half a book? That's just silly. Along the same vein, Marlowe. I really like Marlowe. So Marlowe is by authors.ai, and it's a artificial intelligence and it's created by the people of the Bestseller Co., who wrote the Bestseller Code. It's that book that sort of was published, I think, in 2019, that was talking about this is what all of the bestsellers have in common. I can't find the book. It's here somewhere. It's not there. It's behind my computer, and I don't have time. But it's by those people, and it basically gives you a report and it analyzes your book, and it compares it to other books, and it says your book is similar to these books, like in terms of style, content, that kind of thing. And it also shows you where your plot points are in the story, and how it matches up to certain types of story structure. And it also helps. I don't take that too seriously, but it's nice to know if your book does have one of my books did have a bit of a build. The inciting incident was delayed, and it's because before I, kill off somebody in a book, there was a huge cast, and it was really important to see these people in their natural environment and to see who they really are before this other person dies, just so you're introduced to the characters, and you already think, once they die, you go, I think it's this person. So that sort of pointed out to me, which is something that I knew, and I didn't change it because I felt that it was relevant. Because my book's about 80,000 words, so it's a huge, but it needs to be, the build up to the inciting incident needs to be a little bit bigger in this book, because that's what the story needs. But if the story doesn't need that, then that's a problem. Obviously I still use Scrivener, and I love it. Obviously there are things in Scrivener that I don't like, and I know why they are the way they are, but it's not, you're never going to find the perfect writing program. That doesn't exist. If someone tells you their writing program is perfect, they are selling you something. Just because nothing is perfect. But it's great, and I like it, and I'm used to it too. I'm not particularly interested in changing things, but I'm okay with talking about other writing programs, because I realize not everyone has been using Scrivener forever. Some people are just entering the self-publishing space, and they might want to consider using Atticus, or Scrivener, or something like that. But I think Scrivener is the way to go. And I like it, and I'm used to it too. I'm not particularly interested in changing things, but I'm okay with talking about other writing programs, because I realize not everyone has been using Scrivener forever. Some people are just entering the self-publishing space, and they might want to consider using Atticus, and which is created by Dave Chesson, it's a great product, but I'm already using Scrivener, so I don't really want to change. I really love Booksprout. I wouldn't expect huge things from Booksprout, but I've noticed that as I've used it, I've been using it since I think 2021, 2020, and I've never gotten huge numbers of reviews from it, but the reviews that I've gotten from that have been from people who've written fair and honest reviews. I've never had someone write a review in the program and then publish something very different on Amazon. I've had that in other services that find ARC readers for you, but this one is quite good for that. And I've realized you're actually able to, I actually am thinking of creating a Booksprout versus Book Sirens and the other sort of ARC reading services that I've found, and sort of comparing them for you. Let me know if you do want me to do that, along with beta reading softwares that I've tried, because I've purchased a lot of things. I've been unhappy with a lot of things too. So I'm pretty happy. I'm okay with being honest about the things that I've used and why I like things and why I don't like other things. So if you're interested in me doing a proper review, I'm probably not going to do that on the podcast, because it's hard to do that on an audio only podcast. The other thing I still use is MailerLite, and I'm really happy with them. I use both versions of MailerLite. So for LaVilla book covers, I have the new version of MailerLite, and for my business, for the Authorpreneur podcast and my author AD Hay pen name, I use MailerLite as my mailing list for those as well. I also use Evernote for every part of my business, right from writing down social media posts. I keep my hashtags that I use regularly in there. Notes for obviously my podcasts, like my podcast show notes, blog posts. I sort of write in there, and I sort of write and edit, and then I copy the text and then put it into WordPress, because I don't want to be doing any sort of grammatical checking, grammar or spelling checking in WordPress. I just want it to be done by the time I get to WordPress and post the blog post, or I post the show notes in Blueberry. I want it to be perfect by that stage, or near perfect, or to the point where I haven't noticed any more mistakes. And Todoist. I've been using Todoist for a very long time. There's just something so satisfying about ticking off things that I've done. I just really love it, and I don't see myself not using it. It's gotten to the point where I've talked my husband into using it, and we sort of send each other tasks and stuff, and I really, really love it. I've got a problem, but I just really love Todoist and Evernote. So these are the things that I absolutely love to use in my business, and I definitely will be using them in 2023. So that's all of the things that I can discuss in terms of what I've achieved in 2022, as well as the products that I plan on, that I've used in 2022, that I will use again this year. If you have any questions or tips on book marketing that you'd love to share with me, please come over to my blog post and share your thoughts in the comments section, or leave them under the YouTube video, or just wherever you find this episode. If you're able to comment then, or you can send me an email at podcast@authorpreneurpodcast.com and share your thoughts with me there as well. So thank you for listening, and happy reading and writing, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Authorpreneur podcast. If you love this episode, then hit the subscribe button and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. I'm your host, Amelia D. Hay, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.